The first chapter is titled, I Have a Dream. This is the intro. My father chose to name his first sermon, I Have a Dream, in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And in this sermon, he wanted to talk about what has happened to society since this great man was taken from the world. In American history, Martin Luther King Jr. is a legendary figure. In the undertaking of writing this book, and after reading my father's manuscripts, I knew that in order to get a better understanding of him, I would have to spend some time researching this great American hero. Martin Luther King Jr. was born in Atlanta, Georgia, on the 15th of January 1929, to his parents, Alberta Williams and Martin Luther King Sr. It is interesting that King Sr. and King Jr. originally had the first and second names of Michael Luther, but in 1934, King Sr. took a trip to Europe, which filled him with an incredible admiration for the 16th century German church reformer, Martin Luther. King Jr. received his formal education from Morehouse College, Crozer Seminary, and Boston University. After receiving his education, King Jr. went on to become a Baptist preacher, like his father before him, and his grandfather before his father, and his great-grandfather before his grandfather. It seems as though King was destined from birth to spread the inspiring words of God. King Jr. found his first position as pastor shortly after finishing his PhD at Boston University. The church that he went on to pastor was the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery, Alabama. King Jr. found his wife, Coretta Scott King, on November 17, 1955. They had their first daughter and named her Yolanda King. The birthday of Yolanda was a pleasant time for King Jr. and his wife. However, this was not the case for other members of the black community. A few short weeks after Yolanda's birth, a respected member of Montgomery's black community was arrested for violating a city segregation statute. The violation occurred because the person refused to give up their seat on the public bus to a white passenger, and the offense landed this person in jail. That person was none other than Rosa Parks. Political activists in their community were in an uproar, and determined to take action, they sought out a place that they could gather to plan their next moves. The activists looked to Martin Luther King Jr. for both a figurative and very literal haven in which the meetings could take place. King Jr. agreed to help, and he soon found himself in the middle of a political war. It was there at Dexter Avenue Baptist Church that the bus boycotts of Montgomery were discussed, prepared, and put into action. It became clear that King Jr. was destined to play a bigger role in the drama of history. Sometimes that is exactly how life is, isn't it? God has huge plans for us, but we are unable to see it because our limited minds can't envision the greatness that God has in store for our lives. Martin Luther King Jr. decided to move to Montgomery, not necessarily because he felt led by the Spirit, not even because he had some preconceived political agenda. He moved to Alabama because he found work there. He was also tired of Atlanta, and after spending such a great deal of time there, he wanted to venture out into a new city for a fresh perspective and a new start. Regardless of the reason for his relocation, the effect that it had has been written in history. Talk about an inspirational person. The life of Martin Luther King Jr. is simply incredible. The man fought against racism and prejudices all of his life, and yet he was still able to become a successful person, even before his impactful political career. Despite being born into a world of vicious racism, King Jr. went on to be a philosopher of religion. Knowing this about King Jr. really resonates with me, not because I understand what it's like for him being born in the early 20th century, but because I am an aspiring scholar as well. There have been times along my educational journey when I have felt unsure whether or not I could rise to the challenges presented by my scholastic undertakings. In fact, there was a time when I did not believe that I was able or talented enough to get a degree, much less finish.